Hey, everybody. Welcome back to this week's rendition of the Multifamily Investing Academy's podcast with me, Charles Dobbins, your host. I am here today with, we're going to have a little fun, like Michael Elefante. I don't know, Michael.
Elefante,
Let's,
yeah.
let's talk. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, okay? I mean, how many times have you heard that one, huh? Gosh, I can only imagine. The Elefante, we say?
Elefante. Elephant
All right.
works though. If you say it with a French accent, I think you can say Elefante.
Elefante. Yeah, I guess okay. All right, but this isn't one of those names like broccoli, which was like a name first, and then it was assigned to an item. Did you know that about broccoli?
No,
You didn't know that? Didn't you ever watch Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
no, never.
Oh my gosh, yeah, the producer of that, or even the writer of it, his name was Broccoli, and his family invented broccoli. You see, we can stop right now, and this would be like for most of my listeners, this would be an incredible experience for them. But no, that's why we have you here, and I have questions for you. Okay, so folks, just listen. What Michael, first up, the name of his business, and by the looks of him, I can tell that I'm a lot older than he is. So he probably stole his name from me. The name of his entity is www.bnbinvestoracademy.com. I mean, I thought I had the first investor academy, multifamily investing academy, but you've got the BNB Investor Academy. So which is, you call it short-term rentals, but you also, I mean, it's really Airbnb, right? Is that your major focus?
Yeah, Airbnb is one of the platforms that we market and list our properties on for rent. But yeah, short-term rentals or vacation rentals is the backbone of the business.
Okay, so what other ones do you use?
Verbo, vacation rentals by owner. Some of my management company also lists on booking.com. And then we have a deal with Marriott as well for the villas and homes. And then a direct bookings website. But Airbnb and Verbo are, predominantly the two platforms that people book our properties on.
Well, I didn't know Marriott had their own similar Airbnb.
Yeah, they launched that I don't know how many years ago, but I think they saw the amount of people that had adopted Airbnb specifically, especially they kind of garnered that name recognition, kind of like take an Uber, if you will. So once they did that, I think they wanted to be able to compete in the vacation home space. So it's just like another platform. And then what's cool about it for Marriott actually is their Marriott points users, right? Their members, the loyalty member programs can be applicable if they want to. If they have a bunch of points, they can apply that to an actual vacation rental that's listed on their I think it's the villas and something else website. So that's pretty cool that they do that. But we just got started.
I can only imagine that working with them, they must be pretty high end. Like they don't just accept any.
Very strict. Yeah. Even down to like the type of linens and towels you provide guests. So yeah, it's pretty, they have a pretty hefty checklist. So not all of our properties that we manage can technically be on there for the management company, but the majority of them can. So yeah.
I mean, I own hotels, and we obviously have to deal with the PIP program, the property improvement program, which is huge number, and the franchise cracks down on you. They come in, if you have the wrong coffee cup, they're all over you. I mean, is that the same way it is with having a short-term rental with the Marriott?
No, I don't think they go down to like the coffee cup, but they do have a specific list of certain items that they want to remain standard, right? Because when you go to Marriott, you have a certain set of linens or towels. So those things, among other items, are like the key things. So they can at least expect a similar experience from like the bed they sleep in, the towels they get when they get out of the shower, those types of things.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Now, with Airbnbs, how much money do you need to get started doing this? And I've heard of somebody out there teaching a program where it's like you don't even own the property sometimes, right? You just act like a little bit of a hotel rate arbitrage. So
exactly, yeah. There's three primary methods to get started with short-term rentals, which is why I fell in love with the business model. So there's the typical buy and hold investment, right? You're either partnering with someone, you're doing it on your own, you're putting 10, 15, 20% down on a property, buying it, and then renting it out. Option 2 is called rental arbitrage or Airbnb arbitrage. And this is where you essentially sign a corporate or commercial lease with a landlord, garner their permission to, hey, this is a business for me. I'm going to rent your place, and then I need permission to furnish it and then rent it out either on a short or midterm basis. So you're arbitraging the system to where no down payment, no closing costs, no credit typically required, and you just have cost of furniture. If you have to put furniture in there, and then costs associated with setting up the lease. And then, the revenue less your rent and operating expenses is cash flow. So very, very cost-effective way and scalable way to really build cash flow quickly. You get started with, 7 to 10 grand probably is like in the lower end. And then you could do nicer or larger places on arbitrage and be upwards of 20, 30, 40,000 all in on the property to start. So that's option 2. And then if you have no money, then you could do something called co-hosting, which is basically an entry-level way into property management to where you help someone manage the property or just take over the full management game for them. And you charge a percentage of revenue that property generates or that you help generate with that property as basically like your service fee.
Okay, so you're being really just a property manager.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's it. Okay, that's interesting. Now, obviously, if you're doing something where like the arbitrage scenario where you're working, you let the landlord know. You can't pull a fast one on the landlord.
Yeah, it's really bad practice if you're going to do that. I know people that have done that in the past. Like, oh, well, if they find out, then I'll just deal with it then. It's like, this isn't really the, you don't want to get into a lawsuit because there's usually very specific things in the lease agreement.
Yeah.
Right. They usually prohibit that and have a portion of that agreement that specifically states it. So my recommendation is be upfront with your business. You can develop very great relationships with landlords or investors themselves. And honestly, their goal is to reduce vacancy and turnover because that's the biggest expense for a multifamily investor or for a long-term rental investor. So if you can eliminate that for them and make it a financially beneficial scenario, and then also you manage your properties effectively and you have good guests and little headache, if you're going to be profitable and in there for multiple years, you're going to help them be more profitable in the end as well, and hopefully be less of a headache than some normal tenants can be.
I mean, you talk about just the subletting clause within a long-term lease, would negate an Airbnb. So you'd have to have that removed from the contract by the landlord. Best advice I can give you is don't enter into a contract that you are in violation of on day one.
Yeah.
It's just don't do it. It's not good business practice. In my business, we got 1 million. The story is we've got 1 million new apartment starts in the, coming online within the next 12 months. While at the same time, rents are going down and vacancy is going up because of what's going on in the marketplace. I would think that these 1 million new Class A apartments that are coming online, that's an opportunity for people looking to get into this business, using existing properties and not even have to come up with a down payment.
Yeah, absolutely. And Class A property is probably where you're going to want to be if you're doing rental arbitrage. You want to be in a city that has established tourism. There's also a lot of other things going on and close to, for example, Nashville. You want to be close to downtown. That's where most of the Class A apartments are going to be. People want to be able to walk or short Uber to, all the bars on Broadway. They want to be close to the Bridgestone Arena or, wherever the hockey and the football games are, concerts, things like that. So typically you want to compete on value is what I teach people versus competing on quantity, right? If you're competing on price, I never want to be the cheapest rental in a market because a race to the bottom, it always ends up in a race to the bottom in really any business model. So by competing on value. Yeah,
exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it about Nashville? I mean, Nashville is like the home of Airbnbs. Everybody's, flipping homes in Nashville and turning them into Airbnbs. Why is that? What other city is a great place to go? I mean, you think Nashville's saturated by now?
So there's 2 different types of markets. Or you have traditional vacation markets, which are mountain, beaches, lakes, things like that. And you can really divvy that up into 2 as well. More destination locations like flying to Denver, driving all the way up to Aspen. And then you have all these activities that you have to pay for on top of that. Then you have the traditional vacation spots that are the major drive to vacation destinations. So your national parks, think Gatlinburg, right? Sevierville, the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee, the most visited national park in the country. It's driving distance from multiple major metropolitan areas. And the reason that's important is because in times of economic hardship, people may not buy the plane ticket to go to Aspen or Vail, and because you have to pay for transportation, a flight, you have to pay for the activities you're doing, lift tickets, so on and so forth. The Smokies, or like Destin, Florida, for example, you're driving and you're paying for the accommodation, but the park or the beach is what your activity is probably going to be. So it could be a lot more affordable. And those people go religiously every single year with their families. So those are the vacation spots. And then you have the urban areas, which are more heavily regulated, like places like Nashville. What I like to do, and if I'm investing in an urban area, is I want to see a growing population. And I also want to see either established or growing tourism as well paired with that. The reason a growing population is important is because it's going to help, ensure that that investment is fruitful long-term, not just today with the cash flow of people renting it. But typically more people moving to a city, growing population, more jobs. It's going to keep a heavier pressure on supply in a market. And then secondly, growing population means that people also have a need for short-term housing, because if you move to a new city, you may not know where you want to live. Maybe there's not a house that you want to move your family into yet. So you may pay for furnished accommodation for 1, 3, 6, or 12 months at a time. So there's a pivot aside from just the normal 3 to 7 day rentals to do midterm rentals in that regard too. So that's usually what I'm looking for.
Okay, now what about those cities? And tell me what's going on with, some of these cities are getting sick and tired of the Airbnb people coming in there. I mean, how do you protect yourself from that happening?
Usually I try and see the writing on the wall. Most cities have some type of permit process in place today. And most of them are moving towards, it mostly around zoning, right? So they need to be commercially zoned or like in a plan unit development that is specifically designed for short-term rental accommodation. In the heavy residential areas in cities, I try and stay away from, because I've noticed in cities where if they change rules, they'll grandfather most permit holders in. So as long as you own that property, you can continue to rent it, but you can't sell it as a short-term rental anymore because the next buyer is not going to be able to STR it. So in many cases, if I am doing a city, I want to be in a commercially zoned area to kind of protect myself. And then when I say see the writing on the wall, you want to see like how frequent have there been changes in regulation? And you can network with your realtor, other investors in that market, look on the website. And if there's been like constant change and getting more aggressive, then, I might stray away from that particular city.
Now, just do the, in the hotel business, we use the STR report, the STAR report. I mean, is there a report like that for Airbnb that tells you what's going on in that marketplace?
No, not particularly. But what you can do is leverage AirDNA is kind of like a data hub for short-term and vacation rental data. Okay. The report you're talking about, I'm familiar a little bit with that, but I don't think they cover as much of like, single family home short-term rental data
exactly.
And info.
I mean, mostly like a lot of the flagged hotels and some independent hotels. I mean, the information's fantastic. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just wonder if the same thing is true in your business.
Yeah. The AirDNA gives a market grade, a report basically. I think, I know they're making some new changes to the website, so it'll be interesting to see what additional information they're able to pull in the future. I'm sure that's a common request for them. AirDNA and some other websites are data hubs for short-term rental information as far as like revenue, daily rates, occupancy, top performing properties, and using filters. So that's usually the main site I go to help digest some of that info. And they give a regulation rating, but they don't give the specifics. Usually you have to go to the city website, see what's available online, or call in, or, definitely lean on your realtor. They should be familiar if you're working with them on short-term rental investments. They should be familiar with the local regulation.
Give me some numbers. I want to understand, like, if you think, okay, I'm going to go rent an apartment somewhere for $2,000 a month. And there are so many fees now with Airbnb. I mean, they all the cleaning fee, the service fee, all that type of stuff. How much of it net falls into my pocket? Like, what's my break even occupancy on an Airbnb typically?
Occupancy is just one of the factors. You have to understand daily rate and then what the expenses are. But if you have a good short-term rental, typically, if you're doing rental arbitrage and renting, you're going to want to aim for at least 2x what you're paying in rent in rental income. So usually you'll net like 40-ish% of that total rental number.
40%. Okay. That's almost like a multifamily. It's actually a little bit lower than a multifamily, but you guys, as far as occupancy goes, geez, that means you've got to at least rent the place out half the time, you think?
Yeah, I mean, occupancy, it depends on the size of the property too, and each market's a little bit different. If you have a vacation market that's seasonal, like a Destin, Florida, you may have near 100% occupancy during the summer months,
right?
End of May to early September, but then in the winter it may be pretty low. So, and if it's a bigger property, you're going to have less occupancy because typically, especially if it's in a city, you're going to get the big groups on the weekends, but you're not going to scoop up midweek travelers because there's less frequent large groups traveling midweek in a city. So occupancy, my properties probably average around 70-75%, somewhere in there, and most of mine are a bit bigger, usually 4 bedrooms plus. Highest occupancy one's been like around 90%.
Wow.
Last year was about 94% actually for 2022, and that's a 2-bedroom in Nashville.
And you know what you're doing wrong, Michael?
What's
you're
that?
You're not charging enough for rent.
Well, I would argue otherwise. Yeah. So pricing strategy is something that we spend a lot of time on. It's just like a hotel, right? You want to maximize the, squeeze as much juice out of the lemon as possible for each day. So if I'm able to get premium rates on weekends, I actually find that the biggest mistake people make in short-term rentals, especially in cities, is once they have the weekends booked, they're still making good money and they're okay with not getting booked on the midweek. I'm not going below this daily rate because, I'm not going below. It's worth more. It's like, okay, well, you're walking past an extra $2 to $4 grand a month because you're not willing to get midweeks booked. Yeah. And I'll tell you the other thing too, that's very critical for Airbnb specifically in Vrbo is if you're getting clicked on, but not getting booked midweek specifically, that's going to demote you in search ranking results because they're going to say you're getting an impression, you're getting a click, but you're not getting converted on the back end. So Airbnb's thinking, I'm not going to promote this property to a similar traveler because if it's not going to get booked, I'm going to promote a different property. So price is part of the equation. And then secondly, reviews are really critical too, quality and quantity. So the more I'm going to get booked, the more reviews I'm going to get, the less availability I have on my calendar too. So if I'm a traveler, just like a restaurant, if you look at a restaurant that has 12,000 reviews compared to the one next door that has 200 and they have the same overall rating, and it's hard to get a reservation at what the place that have 12,000 reviews, which one do you think you're going to associate quality and like psychologically you're going to want that place over the other? Yeah. Even if they're the same exact menu, same exact chef. So that's how I view, Airbnb specifically is you want to like hit that algorithm to be ranking higher. And then over time, you're going to be able to charge more because people are going to associate that value with your property.
I in the hotel business, we have our reservation system. They are so advanced where we can actually change our rates on the hour while I'm just monitoring what's going on in the marketplace. And we do. I mean, that's how often we fluctuate our numbers. I mean, is it like, does someone in your program, when they come out of it, do they have that type of ability or they just, you teach them how to price it correctly?
Yeah, so there's a couple different pricing tools that we use. It's not quite as advanced as a hotel pricing engine, but Price Labs, Wheelhouse, Beyond Pricing, and similar tools where you can, it's not as simple as it used to be where people would just say, here's my daily rate, maybe for busy season or weekends versus weekdays. Now it's, here's all my customizations that I put in, and then Price Labs or Wheelhouse is going to go look at booking data and information in the market, and each day is going to have a demand factor, right? How aggressive people are willing to book those days, and it'll tweak your pricing based on your customizations and the volume of demand up or down based on that. So it is quite helpful to where it's no longer just, hey, my daily rate for my vacation rental is $400 a night. It fluctuates greatly. And a lot of legacy property managers are still charging that flat rate. They're not leveraging smart pricing and other software, and they're getting crushed by mom and pop short-term rental investors that are adopting all the new software.
Yeah. I got dinged by an Airbnb host. I signed up, beautiful place. It was fantastic. I met everything that I wanted. and I go ahead, I put my credit card in. The next day I get a message says that I've been rejected by the host. Like, what the hell? Why would I be rejected from the host? What did I do wrong? And the thing is, I was using a brand new account. I had created a new Airbnb account for personal reasons, but I went on and the guy says, yeah, you don't have enough reviews. You don't have any positive reviews. I'm like, really? I thought you're the one that's supposed to be having the reviews, not me. Like, I didn't realize it was the other way around.
Yeah, that's like the new economy that we're in. Even with Uber, you get rated as a passenger. It's
Yes,
you're not rating the
exactly.
business. So a lot of travelers actually don't like getting rated. So that's like one
Yeah.
of the gripes they have. But at the same time, a host opening up a home to, a group, there's issues that can be caused by a bad guest,
Yeah.
so you try to mitigate that, and you can set up your own parameters. We let people that don't have any reviews, but usually they can't auto book, so we have to ask a couple qualifying questions just to ensure
Yeah.
that, hey, what are you in town for? Like, you're not a local, like just trying to book a party, because it does
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. I eventually got booked. The guy let me in. I showed him my website. I showed him I was legitimate. I said, I got I got like 5,000 Facebook followers. I'm like, I'm a real person. Like, this is real. He goes, okay, yeah, you're good. You can come on board. But you're absolutely right about the Uber. I always give the biggest tip, and I always give the 5-star review to Uber, because I don't want them saying anything bad about me. So they got me coming and going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unbelievable. You know, how hands off? I tell you, the biggest issue I have in the field that you and I are in, the 30,000-foot view, is this whole concept of passive. It's all passive. You're going to make millions by passive investing. No, you're not. There's work involved in everything you do. So, I mean, but at the same time, I can imagine you have to work to do what you do, but you've got some pretty good systems in place that it takes care of itself. How does that work for you?
Yeah, I would say technology across a lot of industries, right? But technology is more or less democratized short-term rental investing and management for the everyday person, to where you don't have to have a local office, set of keys, and an in-house cleaning staff to run a vacation rental. We traveled in a camper van for a year, and we managed our 4 properties at the time, my wife and I did, back in 2021, from our phones, across the country. So
Yeah.
that's what tech has been able to do. You can automate, your calendars, your pricing, a lot of the guest communication can be automated now. Not
Yeah.
all of it. It's definitely not passive. I would say it's more passive than it used to be. But yeah, the most amount of work, like any real estate investment, is finding the deal and then setting it up. And that's where short-term rentals, it's more labor intensive or more cost intensive if you're going to outsource it. But to furnish it, design it thoughtfully, because a lot goes into furnishing a short-term rental. It's not like furnishing your own home. All right, you're furnishing for a click on a website in order to gain someone's attention and get them interested enough to book your place at that price point. And then, once you have it set up and launched, you can use property management software to automate as much as possible. But inevitably, you're still going to have to respond to individual questions from a guest that your system can't respond to. So once you get to, it takes about 30 to 60 minutes a week per property to manage. But for the amount of cash flow that these things can generate, most people are definitely willing to give up 60 minutes a week.
Exactly. Now, you mentioned something about the furnishing, and the issue that I'm having. Like, we're in the process of buying our next hotel, and what we do is we take it from a hotel to an apartment to multifamily. That's our objective. And every single hotel we acquire, the transition is different. There's no set way to say, oh, well, this is what we do. We shut everything down, kick everybody out. No, we may go from a hotel to a multifamily, in short order, or we may do a hybrid situation because maybe we don't have a certificate of occupancy for a full multifamily because of the town, so that we have so many different ways to skin the cat. One of the things that we're doing for this next hotel is we're going to have some of them be Airbnb rentals. And so, you mentioned the issue about furnishing. what's the strategy behind that? I mean, how would you do it? A court rental? Do you go to a Kia? You know, how do you do it? Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Thank you. I'll tell you two different ways to do it. The one is just the self-directed way. Hey, I'm going to try and do this all on my own. And that takes a lot of effort because for most people, designing and furnishing a property is not their strong suit. And it wasn't for me. It took a lot of effort for my wife and I to do our first 6 on our own. But spend a lot of time on Pinterest, look on AirDNA, look at other properties. What are the top performing properties? What do they look like? What amenities do they have? What type of design do they have? What type of other features can you also offer to compete with them? And then on top of that, what are 1 to 2 things or reasons that you can stand out on top of them, right? You have to be digitally marketable. So number 2, which I would recommend doing, and by the way, we usually get everything online. 99% of it is sourced through Wayfair, Amazon, similar sites. But number 2 is you could outsource it and use Summer-Led Designs, which is a design company I'm a part owner in. And the girls who run the day-to-day there are amazing. All we do is short-term rental design, vacation rental. We do boutique hotels too. And you can basically hand it off to us completely. We'll do a remote design, you install, or we'll show up and do the entire install ourselves, get it professionally photographed and everything, and then hand it off to you.
Okay. Okay. Give me that name again. Because I think I actually saw that on your website.
Yeah. Summer-Led, SOMERLED, Summer-Led Designs.
Summer-Led Designs. There it is right there. SOMERLED Designs. Okay. Now this is another gig that you got going on?
Yeah. I'm a partner in that business. And then
Very cool.
Yeah. That's been growing like crazy. But there's a direct correlation with relevance in a marketplace and then return on that investment long term as a short-term rental investor and operator by having the appropriate design. So absolutely, it's been great for our clients.
Okay, that's awesome. I'm gonna send that over to our partners as soon as I get off this call. That's excellent. Okay, so let me ask you this. Tell me more about your program, your B&B, not Airbnb, B&B Investor Academy.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me how'd you get in this crazy business?
So when I got started in short-term rentals, I started posting content. It was really more just regurgitating what I was learning a bunch of years ago. I had a lot of people.
Did you saddle up with that guy from Charleston? Do you know who I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
Oh, there was some other guy who came out strong, with his Airbnb program, and I haven't heard a word from him since. And I was wondering if you were in that guy's camp.
No, I'm not sure. I'm familiar with a lot of the guys in the space, or guys or gals in the space. But no, I was.
Oh, you froze. Hold on. I hope it wasn't me. Hold on. You're frozen. And we'll be back. Oh, there you are. Hold on. There you go. Okay.
You were frozen. I wasn't sure. I started over there.
I thought you were frozen. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
good.
It could have been me. Yeah. So the question was, how did I get started in the coaching business? I didn't really have an intention ever of doing coaching. My goal was to just start a personal brand and kind of leverage anything I was learning and just start to share and see where it led to. And it was funny. I started posting content on YouTube at first, which was not my strong suit at all. Then it led to short form content. I started to have people reach out asking for help and mentorship. So I was doing free mentorship, free coaching calls. Then I had asked people asked me how much I would charge for an hour consultation. I was like, I've never thought about that before. So started to do just hourly coaching calls. Then that led to a higher price point because the demand was there. And then people were asking me would you build like a course for me? And I was like, no, I never thought about doing that. And then so I did that. And then that led into more like what the program is today, several years later, which is a 6-month, high level mentorship and coaching program. You get access to over 30 coaching calls a month. We have a attorney, CPA. We have 2 real estate investment coaches, CEO of property management company does property management coaching, data and analytics, and then the design team does design coaching. So tons of availability. You get a client success manager, and then we basically hold your hand and teach you how to do everything A to Z during that time. So very more intensive than a lot of online coaching programs are. Most are typically like a video course and then maybe 1 to 4 calls a month, which is like basic Q&A. So we wanted
Yeah.
to kind of do something a little more involved for people. But we've
Very
coached, a ton of people, over 1,000, maybe 1,200 people at this point over the past 2.5 years.
Well, good for you.
And it's been good. Yeah.
Good for you. All right, folks, you can find him on bnbinvestoracademy.com. His name is Michael Elefante. Don't call him by any other name. Okay, that's what I tell you now. Michael, thank you so much for being on my show. It's great to meet you, and I wish you all the best. And I can't wait. I tell you, that design thing looks pretty cool, folks. Summer Led Design, SOMERLED. Is that a last name, or is that a play on something? Or
yeah, I don't know if it was Latin, comes from another language where summer led stands for. I don't know if it was summer vacation or holiday or something like that.
Very
but
cool.
The girls came up with it, and yeah, it kind of had a nice twang to it.
Very cool. Well, it's not like your wife, is it? Is that what it is? No, no. Okay. All right, great. So cool to meet you, Michael. And I will put this out. Make sure I get your message out there in front of all my students.
Awesome. Sounds good, Charles. Appreciate
Thank
you
you,
having me
sir.
on.
Take care.